I am going to record this. We will be recording this, so it will be available online for you to share with all your friends, and also so that we can use this as a resource for other folks. Again, I want to thank you all for joining me. It's really, truly exciting for me. I love this sort of part of the process where we go through and actually start to think about getting the plans in. The peer review process in general this year is fairly different than it has been in years past. To be honest, I'm not sure exactly whether this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just going to say right now that we feel like we've made it more directed towards what the peer review is really supposed to be. This is sort of where we're going to go through today. It will not take, I don't think it will even take half an hour, maybe about that time. I want to talk a bit about sort of what the focus of the plans are, and then the function of both the plans and the peer review itself, and the reason we do it. Go through the rubric, which is different this year, and show you a couple of examples, and then talk about the timeline. The biggest part of this is that the plans themselves haven't changed, and most of you who are involved in making the plans are aware that we're still keeping them sort of focused on linking your institutional purpose and mission, your data you see in your student body, to the sorts of things that will have you have the greatest impact on your campus, meet your most important strategic goals, and sort of making a case to move yourselves forward. And so in that sense, we are asking when you go through these as peer reviewers that you really do make that sort of connection. Is this going to work? Are you measuring the right things? Are you attempting the right strategies? And are you implementing them in a way that shows both fidelity and also opportunity to succeed? That's been sort of the purpose of the peer review, and in going through a whole lot of conversations last year after we completed the plans, one of the things that peer reviewers all noted was they really felt like they were grading papers rather than really looking at the work. And that's sort of why the peer review has changed more dramatically than the actual plans have changed. Is we really do want this to be something where you're focused on the work. In the end, these reports still go to the governor. The job of cleaning this up when it goes to the governor is entirely mine. We don't have we don't have to worry about sort of clean up and tied up within peer review. It really is truly a job that's gotten taken in-house, because I think that's really easier for it to be done at the editing level. So just as a reminder, again, most of you all are there, but the campus updates provide sort of three different things. They give an update on what you've been doing. They give a chance to look at what your data shows you, and they give campuses an opportunity to discuss where they're going to go. How are we going to fix this? That last bit has actually been really valuable, because it really does tell us what works, what doesn't work, and where do we need to sort of invest in some conversations both on campus and as a system. The review process, the purpose of the review process is indeed to improve these campus plans, the updates. And when I finished this, when I did this, I realized that really I am less concerned about improving the plans than I am about improving the work on the campus. And that is sort of what we get to in that second bullet you'll see, is we really would like to have these review tools go back to campuses and help them do their work better. We're looking for really sort of to get some constructive support for them. If there are things that are really, really working well on campus, that's another opportunity that this review affords us. Again, you'll be looking at these through the eyes of specialists for what you think is really unique and valuable. So it's both a way to make them, to improve them, and also a way to shine a light on work around the system that is exceptional. I've said this a couple of times, I want to underscore it. Peer reviewers will be reviewing only those strategies for which they've identified themselves as having expertise or familiarity. And that's really important. So you'll get a full plan, but you'll only be asked to review specific segments that you have indicated that you have a specialty on. Now, many campuses a number of campuses will indicate the same strategy. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that transforming remediation and advising will probably have a fairly significant amount of interest. Other strategies may be less involved. Early college may only have a handful. Block scheduling may only have 1 or 2. And so you may find that if you are signed up for a handful of specialties, you don't see a lot of plans. And that has a lot more to do with what work is being reported on, and I'm saying not being done, but reported on out in the field. You will not need to review the whole update. You will get the whole update in part because it sometimes is hard to figure out how things hang together. But you only really need to focus your interest and attention on those areas of the plan that are core to what you've said you've done. Now, I'm also going to say this. I don't intend to make this more work for anybody, so if it looks like we've got a whole lot of plans and a whole few reviewers, we're going to divvy up the work so that not everybody has to review. We won't have you doing 30 plans because I do not want this to be an ordeal. There is a rubric. It is actually not a rubric, I realize, but it's more of a score sheet but it does have a scale and it has opportunity for comments. Comments are probably more of note than the rubric scoring itself, but the rubric scoring itself gives us an idea of where these institutions are on a range of 10 different measures that sort of indicate different aspects of what we've asked them to report on in the plan. The feedback will all be consolidated by the system office into a single feedback document. It's handed back to campuses. Those of you who are campus plan writers or campus plan coordinators, you will get, if the plan comes in ahead of August 18th, you'll get that same feedback. You'll get a single feedback document, hopefully not a Frankenstein's monster, but actually something that has some coherence to it. More so than, say, I have right now. I will also note one of the things that changes with peer review this year, and this is something that I will open up to a conversation with you all, is there won't be peer review meetings. And I think that actually will probably relieve most of you, or at least most of our historic reviewers. But it also may come back insofar as once we get into more functional areas, the review conversations may be useful to have sort of a check-in on a community that's working on similar strategies. But for now and for this year, the peer review is a very lonely, solitary endeavor that will encourage you to dig deep into this work and give your honest, if brief, response to them. And again, with these feedback, if you think we'll go through some examples, but I want you to be constructive but honest, but you don't need to spend an inordinate amount of time on any one of them. So we will distribute, I will distribute to you, look for the updates in the rubrics from our office by the 24th. To be honest, the rubrics are available online. The plans must be into us by the 18th for us to get them for peer review. So in that sense, and you may get them a little bit earlier, but it will take some time, depending upon how many plans come in, to sort through who gets which sections. And I want to make sure that we have them all together and all sorted out before I start saying them out, so I don't give somebody, 58 sections to read because they're signed up in 3 different areas and they're all really popular sections. So I will send those out to you by the 24th. You will get a document. You'll get a bunch of documents. The only elements you'll have to review are those elements indicated for you in the cover, so you'll know which pieces you have to look at. There is a rubric. It's available in an Excel spreadsheet. It's available as a Word file, and it's available actually online, so you can do it however you want. You don't need to give me one. You can mix and match if you like. The sections that we're looking for you to review will be again indicated, so you don't need to review over a whole bunch of plans entirely, just those sections that you need to. The rubrics and comments can be emailed to me unless you're doing it as a web form. If you do it on the website, it simply goes to me. Once you hit submit, you do get to have that review, obviously, that you'll see before it goes in. And peer review is anonymous. I didn't put this in here, and I should have. Nobody knows, nobody but me knows who said what, and that's important. And I want you to be comfortable with the fact that your comments are handled with all the discretion that you would expect from a peer review process. So know that in confidence what you say will be pulled into a single document and then submitted to a campus from from my email or from Rob Anderson's email, just to indicate what the comments were on that. Again, no team meetings. If there is an interest, particularly if there's questions about specific campuses or specific strategies that reviewers would like to have a better conversation about, we can certainly facilitate that. I'm not opposed to them, but I think that would be that does ask a fair amount of the reviewers if we have a meeting on top of the sort of what might be multiple reviews to do. And again, if we did any team meeting, it would be by strategy, and it may be specifically strategy in campus if that's asked for. So the rubric, which is an adaptation, and it's somewhat new from last year because the matrix changed a bit. The rubric has 10 elements in it. They're used to frame your comments and to give us a sense of where you think this strategy is. And this is important. This is a rubric that's intended to look at what the work is as opposed to the way it's discussed. Pardon me. So that small difference, I think, really does help to frame it. It's looking really to make take a look at the work that the campus is doing within that strategy, and sort of the success they may experience, and also how it may fit into their overall institutional mission with a student body like they have. With, obviously constructive comments. The comments can be collected for the strategy that they're doing, or specific to an element, and you'll see that somewhat in the rubric, that kind of guides you. But you can give an overarching commentary on the whole strategy. In other words, I'm saying you can, instead of making comment on each individual element, you can at the very end say, I like what they've done here and here, but I think they need to do more here and here, and I also think that this is probably a model we want to address across the entire system. That commentary is fine. And put that either in one of, there's all these comment boxes, put it in any one of them, and it should be clear that that's the intent is to make a universal comment. So this is the rubric. I'm going to go through this briefly. These are the 10 elements. The institution has identified appropriate strategy to meet its completion goal. The report provides clear linkages between the strategy and institutional mission and student body. And the report clearly indicates the strategy will lead to significant increase in completion. These are really focused on, have they identified the strategy? Is there a linkage between who they say they are in their institutional mission and student body and what their strategy is? And essentially, are they really meeting a goal that they are indicating that their mission or their student body tells us they should have? The next one here, the activities the institution has pursued are described clearly and are aligned with strategy and goals. Clearly is one thing. We do want them to be reporting on this accurately. This may get a little bit into the reporting on a paper, but part of this is really they're aligned with that if you did this right, if you take this strategy and do it correctly and have comprehensive fidelity, you'll meet your goal, that you should succeed, and that there's no mismatch between, say, the work you're doing and the goal you say you're meeting. And if there's a mismatch, highlight it and say what goal they might be meeting or what work they might do to meet their goal. So that somewhat follows on to the next one. It is clear that successful implementation of this strategy will have a significant impact on college completion. And that it defines and then the next four are actually all about measurement and assessment, and sensitive to the idea that we are highly focused on measurement and assessment, but part of this is because this has been a challenge in the past. And so we're asking you to look at, do they have an assessment strategy? Are they getting the right measures? Are they accurately measuring the outcomes of the strategy with the measures they have, and that they've really identified aligned, measurable metrics. A lot of institutions are having have sort of fudged on that. And again, the point of this, and I know that there are a number of you who are report coordinators, the report is not to get a gotcha on it so much as really to make sure that if you are measuring this on campus, that you're really going to be able to measure this when you get back to taking a look at the work. And you can measure in a way that can tell you when you don't succeed. Finally, the last bit we really are interested in is if you are taking these steps, you know, and you come across an obstacle, you come across a challenge, you come across something that causes you to either abandon it or change it, that we know why. And that's a really important part of this, and that's within the strategy. Campuses are going to blend this in. There are lessons learned within the strategies and outside of them. But we want to make sure that we at least learn from what we don't, what is not working, as much as we learn from what is working. And again, that sort of is indicative of the last part of that. Again, 3 options, the rubric. The rubric comes in 3 flavors, a Word doc, for those of you who want to use a Word file. Word file is easy. You just put an X where the score is, and then you can write as much as you want in the section below. Line breaks, page breaks, whatever you want to do. The Excel spreadsheet is possibly better for those of you who want to just simply have a score sheet. The difficulty is, and I will admit to it, that the spreadsheet does not allow you to put multiple paragraphs in unless you paste them in out of Word. The complication of getting that to work in Excel was not worth the trouble to do it. Finally, there is an online form. I'm a big fan of online forms, but I also don't like necessarily having to go through a piece of paper and then go to a form back and forth. So it's available. That will be emailed to me. They are identical measures, and they should be identical. They're identical measures and identical score sheets, and the comments will all be combined no matter where they come in. So let's take a look at some rubrics. So these are comments to essentially the strategy generally. And when you see the rubric, you'll know this is possibly the way most folks will prefer to do this, but you may want to put specific comments within some of the section scores, and we'll see that in a sec. But the USU institution, as you see this, it's the rubric score of 4, and this is what I would call pretty good positive feedback. It describes what they're doing. It tells us why they think it's worthwhile. It does, however, here at the bottom, you'll see, give some suggestion that there's some other work to be done. So while they do it very well, it's not quite exceptional. And the rubric score goes from not at all, which is a 0, to somewhat, to well, to very well, and finally to exceptional, which is the top score. So I guess that actually should be a 3 if I was looking at this correctly, not a 4. But this is very well. Now, this is unintrusive advising. This is a score on 15 to finish, which is saying it's well. It's not really there yet, but it's this is almost there. And again, you can see there's specific descriptions of what we're seeing, of what we want to see. There is constructive and concrete advice for what how the campus can improve it, and there really is a sense of encouragement about move forward on this. You've got pieces in place, and here's the next step in the line that you should work on. Now, through in this last one, don't even take offense at this. I made it up, but this is an example of one where the constructive criticism is hard, and I think I recognize this when I've looked at them in past because the strategy just doesn't seem to make sense. It is a suggestion, in this case, as you can see, that it does not have the potential to have a significant impact to the institution or address priority need identified. It doesn't mean they have to get rid of the program. It doesn't even mean they have to stop reporting on it, but it should be at least a flag to the institution that this may not be where they want to put their huge investment of treasure and time if there are other priorities that they want to focus on. It could also be that they have not done a thorough job of articulating why this particular strategy addresses a high needs population or a critical population, even if it has a minimal impact. Something that would draw me towards this, and I have just finished actually doing a preliminary review on one campus's plan, would be if numbers are low for a program. If the numbers are exceptionally low for a program, it should be a red flag, either as a percentage or as a total number. It should be a red flag, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a red flag. There are a number of institutions for whom small numbered programs are of critical importance for either a priority population or simply because it demonstrates scale. And in those senses, they might be moved up. But again, don't be shy about saying this doesn't seem to make sense if it doesn't make sense. So the timeline, again, we're looking at, and again, before I go on, I hope that's clear. After I'm done with the presentation, I will try and get out all of the documents mailed out to you so you can see them in front of you. And if you have questions about them, obviously just feel free to come back to me. The plans are coming in on the 18th. If a campus wants to have their plan reviewed by under peer review, we've asked them to submit them by the 18th. Any plan that comes in after that, we're just assuming they want internal review. So we don't know. The answer to this question is there are some campuses who said they really didn't want to have to go through the peer review process, and they very well may not submit. There are campuses that I know want to see them peer reviewed. We just right now don't have an idea of the scale and the scope, and I wish I could give you a better sense of how many reports you'll be looking, or how many strategies you might be looking at, how many reports we'll have in, but at this point I just don't know. And you know, I will say this: we'll be confident. I'm confident we'll be able to manage workload so that nobody is buried. But they will come in on the 18th. The 24th, reviewers will get their report assignments. That will come to you as a package in some form or fashion. I will say this: I will probably distribute those to each individual will get it, but you have an indication of who's on your teams, so that if you wanted to collaborate across that group or had questions about these things, you can do that, and it should be fairly easy. But I'm not going to send it to teams because, of course, the logistics of that, you're in some groups but not other groups, and other people in your group, in one group or another, you would be getting 34 or 28 reports plus a whole bunch of other material, which should not be helpful. So I'm asking that that you complete the review, that you do this in 2 weeks. That may be a bit of a reach, and I will say this: if September 7th is too tight of a turnaround, and we will know more when we get the plans on the 18th, we can push that back. We have time built into this. We have told them, again, you're getting the feedback into us by the 7th. We have told folks that we'll get it back to the 14th. If the feedback does not come back until a little bit after that, campuses can understand because they don't have to get the final reports back to us for review until the end of October. And I feel like we can push it back a week comfortably, if not more, if people feel like I just can't get through my reviews. I would rather have a little bit of this delayed than have it be a rush job or a job you feel you didn't get to do your fullest on. So at that point, I'm going to take any questions. I will, let me see if I can do this magically. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm going to try and get the rubric up on the screen as a Word file, which is probably the easiest way to do it. No, let me do it on the website. In the meantime, if you have questions, you can actually speak up. We're live. If not, I'm obviously always available. And I'm going to get to the website. Just a second. We'll pull up the rubric on the website so you can see sort of the questions. These are available for download. Also, this webinar, the video, and the rubrics will all be available through the website. Actually available now on the website. That's odd. Well, folks, for whatever reason, USG is not running very fast on the internet. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Here we go. So I'm going to pull this up as I'm going to pull this up through Microsoft Word. Bear with me. All right, Donald Pearl. Is that Tech? Somebody at Tech just got let out. So here are the questions. You've seen it. There's a scale you can see from not at all to exceptionally. There's space for comment. Please provide me with your name, who you are, the institution being reviewed, and the strategy you're reviewing. There are 10 elements with 10 questions. If you prefer, you are welcome to simply place all of your comments in either the top or the bottom or separately, however you want to do it. If you just want to consolidate them all, you're of course welcome to do that as well. If there are other questions about this, I am available. Let me show you where I am. I'm right there. I'm Jonathan Hall, jonathan.hall@usg.edu. The phone is there. It rings right to my phone no matter where I am. All of this material is available at completega.org/P Plans 2016. You are you're welcome to go down there. All this material will be available to you. You can download it and peruse it. Again, I look to get you plans by the 24th. I will begin to sort through that and have a list of the workload right around the 18th. If there are any questions, I will take them now. Seeing none, however, I will let you get back to the rest of your afternoon. I appreciate it. We did come in just under 30 minutes, which is, as always, a victory for a webinar. And I appreciate your time. I also very much appreciate your support of this process. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.